before?
Before all this? I was a music teacher.
Waited tables at a truck stop.
She said she was a journalist, but she's just being modest.
And who are you now?
Hey guys, Kiwi here. In this video, I'll be breaking down and discussing a bunch of new characters for The Walking Dead that appeared in the Season 9 Comic-Con trailer. These are characters from the comic books, so we'll be jumping into the pages to take direct examples of what we should expect with Magna's group for Season 9. We'll also be discussing the official casting, along with how their TV show and comic book counterparts appear to differ. What we discuss from the comics will probably happen during Season 9 of the show, so with that being said, a warning of spoilers for everything in the show up to the Season 8 finale, along with the comic book spoilers from A New Beginning story arc, and let's jump right into this.
And who are you now?
Incoming! Here we go!
So, who is Magna's group and why should we care? I've seen quite a few TV only fans stating that the last thing we need are new characters, which is a solid point considering the huge size of the cast. Although the show could do a better job of trying to manage everyone getting equal screen time, that's obviously a very difficult task, especially considering how it depends on what storylines are currently going on. That being said, Magna's group is a key aspect to bring focus into the new beginning for the viewers, as we're kind of introduced to the characters and communities post time skip alongside Magna. I don't think that Magna's group will steal or hog screen time from any current character, but rather she'll be shown when it's necessary to progress the story of a new beginning. Magna's character is actually widely considered to be underused in the comics for quite a while, if anything, so it's not like she has a huge amount of story joining the show alongside her. In my opinion, what actually makes her character and group in general so interesting is that she's just as skeptical about arriving in Alexandria as Rick originally was when he got there for the first time himself when Aaron brought him. If you'll remember, Rick believed that Alexandria was too good to be true and he thought that the people there were hiding something. And after facing people such as the Governor, Woodbury, the Claimers, and the Terminus Cannibals, who can really blame him? But after some time getting used to living in a civilized town again, Rick realized that Alexandria was a perfect place to call his home, and hopefully Magna will eventually arrive to the same conclusion. Alright, so let's go ahead and actually look at the characters from Magna's group, along with their TV show counterparts, as their actors have been confirmed as well. So first off, we have Nadina Hilker as Magna, and I don't know about you guys, but I think that she's a great fit for what we've seen in the trailer. She just really gives off that Magna vibe with her hair, along with her unsure stares, as she's obviously skeptical about Alexandria. Yumiko's actor is Eleanor Matsura, and apologies if I pronounce any of these actors' names wrong, but apparently Yumiko's actor is from the TV show Into the Badlands, so you may know her from there. Yumiko and Magna eventually reveal to be a couple in the comics, even though Robert Kirkman didn't create their characters with that in mind, so we'll have to wait and see if they plan this aspect into them for Season 9, or maybe we won't see them together until much later, maybe not at all, I'm not sure. But moving on, there's Luke, who's being played by the actor Dan Folger. Then there's Connie, who was apparently just on the quiet side in the comics, but in the show her character will actually be deaf. She's being played by Lauren Ridloff, who was nominated for a Tony Award for her work in Children of a Lesser God. Now, we don't see a direct counterpart of Kelly, so I assume that they remixed this character into Connie's translator. As you may know, A New Beginning will feature a time skip just like the comics, but before the comics truly started introducing how everyone and everything has progressed, we start out with Magna's group traveling around on an RV being pulled by horses as Jesus, Heath, Aaron, Rosita, and Eugene accidentally steer a huge zombie horde at them. Now in the comics, this is where we first really see them plan teams and coordinate how to redirect certain hordes away. In the show, they took this idea for the Season 6 premiere due to that huge pile of Cory walkers that they created. In Season 6, that plan fell south due to the wolves attacking Alexandria with that truck with the loud horn, inconveniently turning half the horde back towards towards the community along with themselves. Maybe in season 9 we'll actually see them successfully accomplish this sort of task after the time skip, now that they've had more time and numbers to plan such a dangerous task. And I don't really mind them using this back in season 6, I thought it was really cool when it was premiering, and it actually makes more sense because if they do it successfully in season 9, they will have had practice way back in season 6. So anyways, Magna's group ends up getting completely ambushed by that huge zombie horde. Their RV gets tipped over. Luckily they let the horses go, but they end up hiding in the tree line as Jesus' group finishes steering away the zombie horde. And then Jesus actually rides back to them, surprising them in order to give them an offer to join the community. We can see clips of them running in the forest during the SDCC trailer, and I assume that this is that same scene from the comics where Jesus tells them to head to the tree line as they take care of redirecting the horde. We also see a clip of someone taking a bag off of Magna's head, so I assume that this is her arriving at Alexandria and that they restrained her for safety reasons as they don't trust her yet and they didn't want her to know how to get there. Now, in the comics, it was first Rick who greeted them in the town hall, followed by Andrea interviewing them the following day, but in the show it looks like Father Gabriel is possibly taking over Andrea's job here. So as Andrea interviews Magna, she starts writing down notes of Magna's story, such as how she's from Richmond, Virginia, and that they left and ended up staying in a nursing home called Slade Country that's closer to DC. They had a greenhouse for food all year round, and then about 7 months ago, her and her group of people left that community due to things starting to go bad after too many new people joined. Magna says that only half of their group is still alive since they've left that community, and Andrea asks them how they've died. Magna thinks it's a stupid question as she considers the answer to be obvious, zombies killed them, but Andrea is thinking outside of the box. For all Andrea knows, Magna's group could be a pack of cultist cannibals who eat each other when they need food to survive or something. As Andrea says, there's a hell of a lot more ways to die. So Magna goes through the list of people who have died, along with explaining their strategy of moving around with an RV or trailer rather, hitched to a bunch of horses. Oh, also, apparently Magna's group never ran into other people the whole time they were out there until now, so they only dealt with the dangers of zombies for the entire 7 months. I guess that's just luck of the draw, but they're so lucky they never had to deal with any looters on the road, even though it is like 3 years into the zombie apocalypse. The next day, Andrea discusses to Rick how she went through and interviewed all of Magna's group members, and that all of their stories add up. They initially seem like good people, and she doesn't think that they're lying. That night, Magna's group discusses what they think about Alexandria. Magna doesn't know if they're being lied to or not about getting their weapons back, and she'll feel a lot more safe, she says, once she talks to the newest people here aside from them. Luke seems to be the obvious skeptic, saying that there's no way the people of Alexandria are actually who they claim to be. Magna says that she's trying to be optimistic, but that if something seems too good to be true, it usually is. She says that if they're hiding something, they're going to find it. It seems like Magna is quite the skeptic herself, although she's trying to be positive and give the place a chance. She's being smart, she doesn't want to pass up a good opportunity, she's just being careful, and I kinda like that. It's almost as though when she takes the easy route, it feels like something is too good to be true and it sets off red flags in her head because it's probably a trap. In this case, Alexandria obviously isn't, like we know that, so we'll just have to wait and see how long it takes them to realize this themselves during season 9 of the show. They may just be a little bit paranoid, but it's understanding that they'd be doubtful when meeting a new community. In the comics, they make quite a few interesting decisions as they take matters into their own hands, such as confronting Negan in his cell. Now, the last prediction video that I did on The Walking Dead Season 9 was focused on Negan in his cell and everything involving that, to be honest, so if you want to go check that out, feel free, but for the people that have seen that, I mentioned that Magna actually comes down and talks to Negan, and this is where I really wanted to get into it because I knew I'd be focusing an entire video on Magna herself. So the next day, Magna walks up to Rick, who just visited Negan in the prison. She brings up how her group is having difficulties figuring out what houses are either privately owned or community buildings, along with then asking Rick who he was visiting. Rick explains that he was just visiting a prisoner in their jail, and that they hold people there when they've earned it, as it's the most humane thing to do. Rick further explains that normally people are only in there for a week or two at most, but that they do have someone in there for life. Magna seems interested, but Rick tells her that she can meet him when he gets back from his trip to the hilltop. Now as Rick walks away, Magna gives him a glare, very much implying that she doesn't want to wait until he gets back, so she ends up actually sneaking into Negan's cell with her own group. Luke can apparently pick locks, although he states that it wasn't that difficult to accomplish and that the security is at a low. As they walk down the stairs, Magna says how Rick wanted to seem transparent, but that something just doesn't sit right about this place, which leads her to believe that they're hiding something and she wants to find it. So they walk down the staircase to Negan's cell, and he just instantly starts putting on a play for them, acting like he's not some evil man. He has no clue who these people are, so he's just probably planned out how to act all innocent and hopefully manipulate them into letting him out, or at least to get them on his side. Now in the comics they actually showed this at the end of an issue, leaving it as a cliffhanger for a month, so I wouldn't be surprised if they did the same thing to end an episode in season 9. The next issue begins with Negan continuing to insist that they let him out before that maniac comes back, but Magna instantly questions that, stating that it's the middle of the night. Negan tries covering up his story, saying how he goes down there some nights but he can never tell when. He goes on to say that he gets tortured and taunted and that he doesn't even remember what he did wrong. He pleads for them to help him get out of there as he feels like he's going to be killed eventually. Then he tries playing onto their possible paranoia as he states that they must realize what's really going on there and how everyone lives in fear of that tyrant. Now just as a side note, I find it interesting how Negan describes how everyone lives in fear of Rick, although that actually sounds a lot more like Negan when he was in power. Anyways, Magna's group isn't buying his little story for a moment, so yes, that cliffhanger was somewhat of a fake out. Magna states that she's not buying it and that she's seen what torture does to people, and he seems well taken care of. Negan then completely drops the act, introducing himself and asking them to chat a bit, but they just turn around, walk up the stairs, and leave without saying another word. So that was the beginning of an issue, and we don't see Magna until the end of the next issue, when her group actually ambushes Andrea at her house. Now in the comics, Andrea is dating Rick just like Michonne is in the show, but Carl and Rick were both at the hilltop at this time, so it was just Andrea and Magna's group there all night long, and it seems as though they talked pretty much until the morning. Jesus came in to check and make sure everything was alright, even trying to use some sort of code word, but Andrea assured him that everything was fine and that they were just getting to know each other, completely covering for how Magna just ambushed her and broke into her house. So through exposition, the conversation between Andrea and Magna's group implies that Andrea explained everything to them, from Carl getting his eye shot out to the war with Negan, along with why Rick spared him, and that Dwight runs the sanctuary now. Yep, that's right. After the war in the comics, Dwight actually turns out to be the leader of the Sanctuary because Daryl never existed in the comics, so none of that stuff ever happened, so Daryl wasn't there to tell Dwight to leave. Now, I don't know how they're going to switch this up in the show. I have no idea what Dwight's deal even is. Is he going to find Sherry? Is he going to return? I have no clue, but that's probably a different video for another time, so I definitely digress. Anyways, we saw a small portion of Magna snooping around in the Season 9 Comic-Con trailer, as Magna appeared to be sneaking into a house during nighttime, possibly with a weapon. So is this her sneaking into maybe Negan's prisoner house where his cell is in the basement, or is this her sneaking into Michonne's house or something, maybe Father Gabriel? I'm not sure, just like how they surprised Andrea in the comics. Regardless of which situation this is, I assume that it'll be left off as some sort of cliffhanger. In the comics, we got a little bit of an update with Magna's group each issue, so I don't know if they'll just give us Magna's group in bits and pieces throughout the first half of Season 9, or if maybe we'll get one big episode mainly focused on their introduction and alliance. Season 7 was very bottle episode heavy, and then Season 8 was just the exact opposite, so hopefully Angela Kang can find some sort of medium for Season 9. I'm glad that they managed to talk everything out and work things out in such a way, but the thing is, after this, Magna's group is very underused in the comics, at least until Magna and Yumiko go with Eugene, Michonne, and Sadiq to discover the Commonwealth, but that's like 50 issues away at this point because A New Beginning story arc is issue 128, and the Commonwealth doesn't happen until like issue 175. So with that being said, will Magna's group get into a new original story to the TV show? Maybe some characters will be expanded upon and remixed, possibly taking other comic book roles? I'm not too sure. sure, but if they're introducing this new group, I hope that they find a healthy medium of giving them screen time, because I don't want them to be underused and pointless, but at the same time, I don't want them to take up too much screen time and hog it from the already existing characters that we all know and love. Now we gotta keep in mind that this show is constantly changing and new faces will always be introduced one way or another. And at first with Carl and now Rick and Maggie possibly definitely leaving the show, and rumors of Michonne as well, there may be a bunch of spare screen time to be filled in other ways, such as Magna's group or an expansion on the characters that we already know. And as a side note, there are rumors floating around saying that we may actually get 2 time skips during the first half of Season 9, one at the very beginning of the season after All Out War, along with a second time jump around episodes 5 or 6. If that's true, I'm not sure how we'll be getting Magnus Group during the beginning of the season. I don't know if we'll get them at the very beginning before the first time skip, or if we'll get them after the second time skip. I have no idea. I hope that they just do one big time skip, but what do you guys think? Leave any theories or predictions down below. But that's pretty much it for the video, guys. I'd appreciate a like on the video if you've enjoyed anything I've said today, as these do take quite a while sometimes, and it really helps me out more than you can imagine. Feel free to subscribe for more Walking Dead Season 9 content in the near future, and if you'd like to take that extra step in helping support the channel, consider checking out my Patreon as well. Also, feel free to follow me on Twitter too, link to both of those in the description. I'm fairly active on Twitter even when I'm not posting videos, and I'm always retweeting everything I can involving both the Better Call Saul and Walking Dead universe. But anyways, guys, I thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out!